balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Just Lori. Insurance companies and insurance reimbursement for lactation services. After spending the last few years in the world of insurance reimbursement for lactation services, I have recently updated the information on my website about this topic. It had me thinking about my strong feelings related to this whole topic, and I decided to get more personal and write about it, and that led me to wanting to do a show about it. So here I am. When it comes to healthcare in the United States, as it relates to lactation services, it is pretty piss poor. This is a hot topic and one that I have to respond to on a daily basis to moms that call up asking for breastfeeding help. With the Affordable Care Act and with what insurance companies are claiming, the expectation is that they can get help from lactation consultants like myself and rent hospital-grade pumps like I rent and not have to pay anything out of pocket for these services or products. Based on what parents are told, I can easily understand why they might think this. However, there is what parents are told by the insurance companies, and then there is the truth of the situation. And this is typically what I wind up talking to parents over the phone, what I'm going to share with you today. As a working woman and a mother of 3, I know the financial burden having a new baby can be on the family's budget. You may have come upon my website or looking to hire me as your lactation consultant. Since you have heard that insurance companies are covering lactation services, but perhaps cannot get the answers you need from your insurance company, you have come to me to try and find out this information and see if you can make an appointment with me for lactation help and not have to pay out of pocket. If you are like most mothers who have insurance coverage, you more than likely expect to be given a list of names when you call up your insurance company that say they cover our services, and you're looking for names of IBCLCs in your area that you could make an appointment with for lactation help. But you quickly find that your insurance company tells you that while they cover lactation services, they do not have names of IBCLCs providing this service. And of course, this is confusing to you. They say they'll cover it, although no one guarantees it, but they also don't have a list of anyone you can see, which is quite different than calling up and finding a list of local healthcare providers for other modalities. Let's just say like a pediatrician. You're given a website or a booklet that you can look up different physicians in your area. This is because your insurance company has not contracted with any IBCLCs to be in their network. I cannot be a provider for them as they will not accept me in their network. In the state of Arizona, there were about 85,000 births in 2014. And in the state of Arizona, there are between 275 and 300 IBCLCs. And guess what? Less than 5 or 10 at the most have been accepted into the insurance programs as a provider. In the whole state of Arizona, where 85,000 mothers gave birth in 2014. This is exactly why you are getting the runaround from your insurance company. I recently applied to a major insurance provider and was denied being a provider as they stated this area was saturated with providers. What? A handful of IBCLCs have been accepted as providers and the area is saturated? How can that be? I've even applied to other insurance companies and turned down because they are not offering provider status to IBCLCs. I've been a breastfeeding educator for over 25 years and as an IBCLC since 2001, and yet I'm denied the ability to become a provider for the insurance companies. Not just me, of course, but my peers also. This is insane. So, Here is what I would tell you. If you have questions about breastfeeding, set up a consult and have your concerns and questions answered. If you are having problems with breastfeeding and they are keeping you from enjoying breastfeeding, set up a consult. Hire me as your lactation consultant. Get the experienced and compassionate help that you need, you deserve, and you desire. Go home with a paid bill that you can turn into insurance for reimbursement. Breastfeed your baby in comfort and joy. Do not let the insurance companies dictate how you feed your baby. Feeding your baby is not an option. We all know that you're going to feed your baby one way or the other. How and what you feed your baby should be your choice, not your insurance company's choice. Earlier, I stated some statistics about how many births in Arizona there were and how many IBCLCs in Arizona there are. I am frankly a person who hates numbers and hates statistics. I do admit, though, that they do have their place. So I will mention just a few more because as we get deeper into the statistics, the insanity continues. Taken from the CDC.gov website in 2014, 81% of new mothers started off their baby's new life breastfeeding. By 6 months of age, only 18% of the babies were exclusively breastfeeding. The research has shown hands down that the reason most mothers do not continue breastfeeding as long as they had initially desired is because they didn't have access to good lactation care in the early days of breastfeeding. Is this sounding like a rant? Yes, I guess it is. I'm ranting about this for all the moms and babies who are denied good lactation care. And I'm also ranting about this because I want you to not let the lack of insurance dictate how and what you feed your babies. Do not allow the insurance companies to dictate how you feed your babies. Now hear me out. As a first-time mother, newly postpartum with my first baby, I suffered horribly with painful breastfeeding. My nipples were cracked, they were bleeding, it hurt before, during, and after feedings, and I reached out for help, but there was none available. The closest I came was being able to get some help from La Leche League leaders who were volunteers, and I had attended a couple of La Leche League groups before I had my baby. But honestly, every time I called, and I was crying on the phone, I kept being told the same thing. It's normal for breastfeeding to hurt in the beginning, but just keep going and it will get better. And by the way, be sure to come to our monthly meetings. Breastfeeding was incredibly painful, and it took away some of the joy in the early days of my new mothering because I'd look at my baby, and when she cried to eat, I would start crying too. And when Alicia latched on, I'd clench my jaws and I would literally tremble in pain. And if no one was there, I would let the tears roll down my face. And if someone else was in the room, I did my best to hide my tears. I would look at the clock and I would decide when she is done, rather than just let her decide when she was done. I didn't know it then, but I do now. Breastfeeding is not supposed to hurt, and when it does, it's a sign that something is not quite right. I also didn't know that cutting her off from having a full feeding created havoc with my milk supply. But there were no IBCLCs at the time, and there was no one who would meet with me to help me out. It was just a phone call to a volunteer. Somehow, I muddled through it all. I know for sure if I had access to a lactation specialist, I would have jumped at the chance if someone said they could meet with me and help me. And I know if I couldn't afford it, I would have asked my mother for a loan or someone for some help. In the early years of being an IBCLC, no insurance company paid for the services, and it was all out of pocket. And mothers were deciding if their breastfeeding situation warranted paying an expert for help. But now I find that many mothers are deciding if they should get help solely based on if their insurance company will pay for it. Do you see what I'm saying? As a lactation consultant, I know the emotional hardship that a new mother endures when breastfeeding challenges. They're creating problems with your milk supply, with pain during breastfeeding, maybe with your baby's weight gain. My greatest wish is that you're able to see beyond the immediate financial aspect of your care and do whatever you can to get the help you need so you can get to a place of breastfeeding your baby in comfort and joy and breastfeed as long as you feel like it. Every mother and baby deserves the very best care. If your insurance company does not fully cover your lactation consultant for you ahead of time, they will more than likely reimburse you once you send in your paid bill. But if they deny you, please use a form I'm including in today's show notes so you can appeal the denial. If finances are really tight, don't be shy. A close family or friend will likely be very happy to loan you the money so you can get some help. Most are okay to wait a little bit for you to pay them back, and others are like, I'm just going to give this to you as a gift. If your insurance company does fully cover you, but you cannot get in to see an IBCLC and network for many days, consider the situation that you're in and decide if you can wait. If you can find an IBCLC that you can get in sooner and see her, even if she's at a network, my recommendation would be to just pay ahead and get reimbursed later. You will be glad you did. Of course, I'm standing up and being strong for myself, and I'm fighting for my profession. I know that you would do the same thing for something or someone that you believed in and cared for. I believe and care for breastfeeding mothers, and I am fighting to make common sense out of this whole insurance debacle so mothers will get the help they need. Over the years, I've met my fair share of moms who were not able to continue to breastfeed their first baby because they held off getting help. They have told me that they either just kept hoping it would get better on their own, or they were upset that their insurance company did not cover lactation services. They felt that they were already paying so much for their insurance plan that they were going to be darned if they were going to pay for this service out of pocket. Some mothers had a choice to wait a week to get help or to see someone quicker, but have to pay out of pocket first and get reimbursed later. Ask any mom who has been in this situation, and she will tell you that she wishes she would have had help as soon as possible. When the breastfeeding is lost, mothers get upset, they get angry, and sometimes become depressed. The reality is that it is not a question of feeding your baby. Are you going to feed your baby or not? Of course you're going to feed your baby. And whether you spend money on things breastfeeding related or formula related, you are going to spend money feeding your baby. So why not get to make that choice yourself and decide how you want to spend your money? Mothers realize after the fact that they did wind up spending money on feeding their baby. Their insurance company was not paying for the whole year's worth of formula. That came out of their pocket. In hindsight, mothers realize that one way or the other, you do have to spend money to feed your baby. And if the insurance companies are not helpful, that totally sucks. No, really, it does. It really does suck. What's worse, though, is that parents are allowing the insurance companies to dictate how they get to feed their babies. In other words, if they don't pay for lactation services, then parents can elect to pay for it out of pocket or not. For the moms that get through their challenges, what a shame that they had to suffer while waiting for breastfeeding to get better. For the mothers who were not able to help themselves and they discontinued breastfeeding and switched to formula or pumping and bottle feeding, this is what I mean when I say the insurance company dictated how you fed your baby. You see, feeding your baby is not an option, period. You love your baby. You will feed your baby. Your baby will grow and your baby will gain weight. You will spend money on feeding your baby, whether it be on breastfeeding help and nursing bras or pumps, or whether it be on bottles and formula. My point is, parents should get to choose, not let the insurance companies choose for you. When you are suffering with breastfeeding challenges and you are waiting on your insurance company to decide, you may wait too long and the breastfeeding will be lost. Your supply will have suffered. Your baby may have lost too much weight. You may have become so anxious about ensuring your baby gets enough that now bottles and formula or bottles and your milk may seem like an easier route to go. And I can see that. I can understand that. You may have been in far too much pain and needed relief and just could not continue breastfeeding. I would like to add here that it is of utmost importance to your breastfeeding relationship that you seek professional help immediately and see an IBCLC as soon as you realize you're having breastfeeding concerns. As a new breastfeeding mom, it would be normal for you to feel overwhelmed and sleep deprived and have many questions as you learn the art and science of breastfeeding. It takes most of us a good 4 to 6 weeks to kind of get in the groove of breastfeeding, and that's when we start off with breastfeeding going really well. But it's not normal for you to struggle every day with the basics of breastfeeding. There should be no pain. You should have a fairly easy time of getting your baby to latch on, and your baby should be quite satisfied after most breastfeedings and gain the appropriate amount of weight each week. While it would be nice to have my services covered and you do not have to pay anything out of pocket, this is sometimes not able to happen. However, most insurance companies will easily accept your paid bill and reimburse you for your lactation consult. If you turn down, remember I said there's a process that you can follow to do your absolute best in getting your reimbursement. Sometimes we just have to work hard for what we want, and I'm including several links that I've mentioned in the show. And really what I'm attempting to do from the show is to just put a little common sense into the thinking about, should I have a lactation consult even if my insurance company is not paying for it and I have to pay out of pocket? I do get to hear feedback from my clients, and more so now than even a couple of years ago, a majority are now getting reimbursed for my services. I would love to hear what your experiences has been. Feel free to go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/contact and send me your story. You can also go to the same website, allaboutbreastfeeding.biz, and follow the link that you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen that says voicemail. Click that on and you can leave me a voicemail. I am going to end this podcast in this beautiful spring day with this quote that's appropriate for today's show. It is not about how bad you want it. It's about how hard you are willing to work for it. Till the next time.